Said, I'm working at this place, Don Hills, and they're having a new club called Squeezebox.
I was the queen of rock and roll for 7 years at a club called Squeezebox.
Who the hell lives in New York City?
When I first got called to do Squeezebox, I had no idea what it was going to be, but I was told it was going to be very, very super hip. You know, this was going to be the thing.
It was sort of a sanctuary for a lot of us in New York City, a lot of us who were gay and loved rock and roll, a lot of us who didn't really necessarily have to go to a club with all gay people.
We knew the best drag talent in the world, but they were always lip-synced in performance. If we put them in front of a live band, then I thought we could really do something interesting.
Jesus Christ, it's about fucking time I got on stage.
When they were putting Squeezebox together, they called me up and asked me if I would be the music director of this night. And we were putting on these great drag shows with a four-piece punk band backing up drag queens.
Suddenly they realized they didn't have to sing that good to sing punk rock. You know, they just had to sing with feeling, and they were really punk rock. You know, they were much more punk rock than, you know, a kid in the mall with a mohawk. So I was watching these people find their voice, like very excited, and Steven said, well, you should do a gig here, but you could only do the character that became Hedwig. You could only do the woman because it's a drag club.
I'm working on a this drag character named Hedwig, and I was wondering if I could come in and do a performance.
My first gig there was in a sweaty, packed club, first time in drag.
Direct from communist East Berlin, by way of a trailer park in the Midwest. Let's put your hands together and welcome the internationally ignored song stylist, Hedwig!
Raw show, but it was amazing. I mean, considering what was done at Squeezebox, which was most of the time drag queens coming in doing covers, Hedwig came in with not only rock and roll, but this incredible story about who this person was on stage.
I bet you're wondering how some girly boy named Hans from communist East Germany became the stunning creature barely standing before you. Get over that wall. I mean, I flew over on a big balloon called love.
I thought he was nuts for a long time because I'm not accustomed to thinking this way. It was a revelation for me to take a drag character and view it in a way that you saw it as a whole person, someone who had a history, who had a life.
After my divorce to Sergeant Luther, I scraped by for a few years with babysitting and the odd job, mostly the job we call blow.
It was the audience immediately loved Hedwig. The audience immediately related. It was about this unique person who had issues just like everybody else about love and who they are and where they're going and what they want out of life.
Well, positive proof of gender, I said. A friend said she knew a certain doctor. Luther said he had some savings. I laughed in his face. Ah! Then I cried. For the last time.
So we were really, you know, it was a drag act the first time we did it. You know, from the beginning I ripped the drag off. You know, I had seen Mistress Formica's wig fall off in a performance of Rock and Roll Nigger, and she ripped her drag off too, and I thought, that's intense, you know, because drag queens just don't do that. And, you know, it became the center of the show, you know, ripping the drag off. So that was there from the beginning, and I hadn't been able to really let go in a part in a while. You know, and I'm entering a world that's very much about that, drag and rock and performance art, which is very much about being in the moment. And I wasn't really of that, so it was very new to me and nerve-wracking.
He brought this Broadway kind of voice, and it was so jarring
remember rehearsing with the band and singing, and afterwards Jack said, "Are you really going to sing with that vibrato?"
It was that collision between Broadway and rock. He would say, "Okay, well, why don't we try that song again?" And he'd go 5, 6, 7, 8, and we wouldn't start because we'd be laughing so hard. Because you just don't, we'd go, you don't do that in rock. You say 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now we're going to sing one song for you that Stephen wrote, something that we're both working on for a theatrical piece.
I think some of the Queens felt they were being taken advantage of in that John was utilizing this to workshop an idea of his that they didn't fully understand. And here was a really talented, but not only talented, he was widely acknowledged for being talented. We all knew talented people, but this was someone who had won awards and had been in major productions. He had to be made to see. This was not a caricature that you could put on and take off. This was about a rock and roll sensibility that permeated every aspect of their lives. John had to pay his dues.
And then we did gigs every 6 months, and Mistress let me be the host, one night.
I did a wig for his first time he hosted Squeezebox, and he had this wig that was made out of cardboard. It was toilet paper rolls with hair wrapped around it, and I distinctly remember about halfway into the first song, the toilet paper roll started to come undone. So by the end, he's rocking out with toilet paper rolls dangling at the bottom of his wig that I had glued, to make that sort of. It was a side part, but sort of a prototype of what is now the Hedwig.
This is the first time it's been performed. It's the first song of the show, and it kind of sums up the philosophy of how we feel about love.
It was all there. We sang Origin of Love, first song that Stephen wrote.
The first thing that happened when John and I started working together, the first thing that we did was we walked to a bookstore and he bought me Plato's Symposium and the book, and he gave it to me. He said, "Read this, there's a story in there I want you to adapt.
Can you make this into a song?" And he did. He came back with this amazing song.
The idea of Plato's Symposium is that all the great fag writers and thinkers and whatever in Greece were all coming to dinner with their boyfriends, in their arms, and they were all too wasted from the night before to do any more drugs or drink or party at all, except for Socrates, who, as far as I can tell, is tripping his brains out and spinning in a circle in the driveway. They're all going to sit around, and someone said, "Why don't we all talk about where love comes from? What's love?" And Aristophanes tells the story that's in the Origin of Love.
Two faces.
Idea that if it was told as a bedtime story, like a picture book, and it has this sort of Dr. Seuss limerick sort of rhythm to it. The personal side is richer because you have that story that leads into it, but the story part only gains emotional resonance because you have that last thing, the last time I saw you.
Last time I saw you, we just split into. He was looking at me, I was looking at you. You had a way so familiar that I couldn't recognize because you had blood in your face. I had blood in my eyes, but I could tell your expression. Your soul was a sin. So I talked about that's the pain.
Sadness of it is, if you think you found this person, you never really will unite with them. And I wanted Hedwig to be a walking metaphor for this myth.
anyone who went and saw Hedwig that night at Squeezebox had any idea that this was going to become something that was different. We just knew that we were going to take things further because we knew at the beginning that this wasn't where we were going, it was where we were coming from.
The show really had very little shape when I first came to the project. Up till this point, there had never been a director involved.
David Binder called me and asked me if I would work on it. And I looked at the material, and it was a mess. But it was a wonderful mess.
It was really a series of jokes and sketches and songs, and it wasn't a play. It didn't have a story at beginning, middle, end.
One of the main things at the beginning was to streamline and clarify what, in fact, the story was about.
I produced the original production of Hedwig and the Angry Inch for $29,000. We had so little money. The whole operation was run out of my apartment. We got everything you can imagine. Some way we did a trade, or we got it for free.
I think I invested my salary of $700.
My lawyer actually said, you know, if you want to, he said, if you want to invest in theater, why don't we do this instead? Just, you know, let's just take the money out of a cash machine and we'll set fire to it. So I borrowed $2,400 off a credit card and threw it at the show.
You know, Hedwig is really divided into three things. It's stand-up comedy with some hoary, cheap jokes. It's Stephen's wonderful music. And then it's also this unexpectedly poignant love story. And it was a question of first recognizing that and then shaping it so that the comedy came in certain sections, and whatever happened between the comedy and the music, it never took us away from Hedwig's journey.